Coming to you from that once-forgotten artery that pulses through the center of the continental United States and into the heart of the Ozarks, Grace Matthews. Looking in from the northern border, our Canadian friend, along with his countrymen feeling the effects of U.S. political issues, Connor Murphy.
Welcome to Dueling Dialogues Ep.220. I'm Connor Murphy here with Grace Matthews in the Hammer in Springfield, Missouri. Hi, you two.
Hello, hello.
Hey, hey, hey.
Happy Canada Day.
Yes. The most boring Canada Day ever, I think, because nothing happened.
No fireworks?
Look,
There was fireworks, like I could hear fireworks last night, but I can't quite see the downtown fireworks from here. There's some forest in between, yeah, I just assumed that there was some sort of fireworks. And then there's personal fireworks. People smuggle them in from places and blow them off in the streets, so I could hear popping going on for a while.
yeah. Well, we're wondering what the 4th of July is going to look like with coronavirus, and we happen to know here we are looking at a big crackdown next week because coronavirus is on the rise.
Oh.
Getting really bad across the United States. It's even getting bad in the Ozarks.
Wow.
So we're really excited to kick off a special little show that celebrates freedom.
Okay.
And, there's a lot of idealism out there about freedom. You think freedom means the same thing to everyone. It doesn't.
Correct.
We've talked about before that the right tends to look at freedom as freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, rather than freedom from
okay.
the press or freedom from, oppression.
Right.
So that's kind of a little bit of a spin, the two sides take. And I think that is maybe the very elementary place where the right and the left differ. I think that's that fundamental place. And we have all these things going on across the United States.
Right.
Riots, protests, ideals about what freedom means.
I agree. Watching the news or segments from the news, you guys are in big trouble over there.
We are in big trouble. And, I'd just like to share a few little thoughts here. Ever since I can remember, America has stood for freedom. And albeit flawed at times, she has done it better than anyone.
Right.
At least most, right?
Absolutely. Compared to Canada, for sure.
Exactly. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion are gifts from the brave men and women that were unselfish enough to risk everything for our survival.
Right.
Of course, even freedom has limitations, as you can't go into and create some sort of mass hysteria. You can't go into a theater or a baseball game screaming fire. But mostly those are consequences for infringing upon someone else's freedom,
right?
Which we're not allowed to do. When you go and you burn down someone's business, you are infringing upon their freedom, especially if they didn't do anything to you.
Absolutely.
So these seem fair enough to me. I fear that as of late that we seem to feel like we are entitled to infringe upon other people's freedoms.
Right.
And that doesn't right the wrongs of the past.
No.
Sometimes I wonder, is this the idea that, a lot of biblical people talk about the sons will pay for the sins of their fathers?
Right.
Now, that's ridiculous. How can we call this anything but discrimination? If we have to pay for the price for things our forefathers did or our ancestors did, how is that anything but another form of discrimination?
Yeah, or racism too.
Exactly. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly.
We must rise above and never forget the past. We must strive to be better than our parents. And after generations and generations, we will eventually get it right.
I hope so. It's not looking good, though.
It's not looking good. It may fall apart right here.
Right.
Well, you know, the one thing that I look at is when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and came up with all these freedoms. Basically, there wasn't a two parties. It was one unit united. All of these rights and freedoms were for all people.
Right.
And for them to be able to see into the future and try to, I guess, try to bring in everything that could possibly happen and spell it out in, I think, a pretty damn clear way.
It almost seems like divine intervention.
Yes, it does. These guys knew what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
As the generations go on, they think that they're smarter than these guys who weren't clouded by a lot of different things that have happened throughout time, but yet they could see into the future and saw how important these freedoms were and how important it was to protect these freedoms and rights. And I think we look past that about how important these were. You know, everybody, well, Thomas Jefferson had slaves. You know, well, okay. He, in today's world, he wouldn't have.
Well, and
You know,
it
that
was
was
wrong. Yeah,
That
it
was
was
then.
wrong.
He knows
but-
it was, but, you know, things...
And we should never forget that he had them and that
Exactly.
was wrong. You tear down the statues, we might forget.
That's right. And so, and then picking on the statues just blows me away. The statue did nothing for it. If you don't learn from if you can't take your child up and say, Daddy, you know, what's this mean? And you can't be able to explain and then give the example of a right and a wrong, God, what are we coming to?
Right.
Well, speaking of one of our forefathers, Benjamin Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety neither deserve liberty or safety. And he went on to say, without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a principal pillar of a free government. When this support is taken away, the constitution of a free society is dissolved, and tyranny is erected on its ruins. As we look at a week when they have removed the president's social media accounts from a couple of social media platforms, we have to wonder, is our freedom of speech under attack?
We really don't have any freedom of speech whatsoever left in Canada. What shreds we had were dissolved a few years ago when Trudeau is funding the media. So if you're conservative or opposed to his view, he just pulls the funding. So we're getting bombarded with propaganda like Russia and China, like in the 50s. This is ridiculous. When I think about freedom, I think about the 80s. You know, the 70s and the 80s. And then when the Gulf War hit, we lost a bunch of freedoms at that time. And then September 11th happened, and we lost a whole bunch more freedoms. And now there really isn't any freedom left in Canada. I mean, Trudeau's saying the border between the U.S. and Canada is going to be closed until everybody gets vaccinated. And he purchased the vaccine from the Chinese army. So,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's scary.
If they're going to be waiting for me to get vaccinated, the border will never be open. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's how bad freedom has deteriorated here north of the border.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, about what Abraham Lincoln would have thought of that, because he said that those who deny freedom to others, I mean, you should be able to choose if you get a vaccine,
Absolutely.
deserve it not for themselves, and under a just God cannot long retain it. Adhere to your purpose, and you will soon feel as well as you ever did. I
Right.
mean, telling someone that you're not going to open up the border till everyone is vaccinated and buying it from China at a time when we don't really understand where or what China's about
Right. Absolutely.
is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
there are some vaccinations that there are children or people or whatever with certain diseases or afflictions that they can't take.
Exactly, and they really can't.
No, we have a child that there are certain things he cannot take, vaccinations he cannot take. It will kill him.
Right.
So is it fair to say, okay, you can't go on vacation to Canada or to England or wherever
Exactly.
because you're not vaccinated? I don't think that's fair.
Right.
It's absolutely not fair, and in the case of our child, it's not us saying, "Oh, we don't want him to get vaccinated because he might get autism or something."
Right. Right.
It's he actually will go and he has seizures, and it will cause further, brain deterioration.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder how many people it will kill.
Exactly. And
Well, we don't even have a democracy anymore. Basically, Trudeau is hiding out in his cottage and just coming forward every day for his photo op and governing from the cottage without any opposition. He's officially shut down Parliament till September.
Does he not own a basement?
I don't know, really.
Well, Joe's in his basement, so I just thought maybe he had a basement too and felt safe in his bunker.
Yeah, could be. It's really ridiculous. As far as freedom goes, I don't think we're a free society here in Canada any longer.
Well, it's getting to where they are sure trying to take away a lot of our freedoms. I'm from the opinion that I should be able to think the way I want, say what I want, do what I want, as long as I'm not breaking any laws and as long as I'm not infringing upon anybody else's freedom.
exactly.
It's almost, I guess, I don't think that's very complicated, but I see people on the news that sure have a different look at it than I do and make it very, very hard for me to see where they're coming from when they're saying that they're being denied this, they're being cheated this, they're just, I don't get it. But, I just like setting fire to someone else's property, where do you get the right to do that? What did that person didn't do to anything to you, but you have the right or the freedom to it just blows my mind that how they can rationally think that this is fair or it's their freedom to do it.
Right. And what pisses me off is the politicians that are backing it and basically promoting that type of behavior as well. Absolutely
Exactly.
appalling.
And to think about, something that reminds me of something Ronald Reagan said. He said, freedom is never more than one generation from extinction.
Right.
We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it is, what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
Exactly.
And that's a very scary fact.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the biggest thing that I think happens with everything, rights, freedom, any way you cut it, is when you let political views get involved. Political views should never be involved with the certain inalienable rights.
Well, how have we gotten so far apart? I mean, at one point, Republican and Democrat were like, minutely apart. I mean, John F. Kennedy, between what he said and Ronald Reagan said, there's not much difference. I mean, they were all for the same thing.
Right.
These days, we're not for the same thing. We're on different pages. John F. Kennedy said the cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission.
Right.
And right now, we are living in the age of, George Orwell. He warned us.
It seems like to me, and along those lines, is you're always going to have your far left and your far right. The far left and the far right are both out of touch with really what's going on in the world.
Right.
The ones in most people are close to the middle. They lean one way or the other.
Exactly.
But
DC does not.
Yes, when you get into the swamp, as Donald calls it, it is a swamp.
Yeah.
You're either with me or you're against me. It's that way. And this voting partisan politics just makes me want to throw up. You are elected to represent your district, your state. I don't care what California thinks. What California does doesn't affect me here in Missouri one iota unless I visit there.
That's why we have the electoral too.
And so that is why we need to be more resistant to these radicals. The radicals are the ones causing the problems.
Right.
Not the 80 to 90% of the people, it's the 5 to 10 that are causing all the problems, and they are jeopardizing all of our freedom for all the rest of us. We don't have people in the Midwest going around burning down Wendy's or Dunkin' Donuts. Not yet. You're right, but we got to get a grip on this before it gets completely into one versus another, and that never turns out well.
Correct. But we want everyone to have a fabulous Independence Day. Think about freedom. And I want to leave this one thought. The fallacy is to believe that under a dictatorial government, you can be free inside. And that is from George Orwell's 1984.
Right.
Think about freedom.
Absolutely.
As you celebrate with your family and keep safe from COVID-19.
Absolutely. I agree.
I think we can all agree on that one.
Hear, hear.
Godspeed, Connor. Godspeed to all of our friends out there. Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day, you two.
All right. See ya.
Thanks for listening.